we get started, if all of you would leave your mics on mute until you're speaking so that we don't get some of the feedback and stuff, and unmute your audio when you are speaking. So here we go.
Steve, this is Anna. We just need one moment to make sure we're live for the public to view. If you could give us a moment.
Okay, certainly.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Thank you. Can I confirm? Are we live?
Yeah, we're good.
Steve, we're live, so I'll do that roll call now if that's okay with you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Steve Weiss,
Present?
Robert Trimborn,
Present.
Gary Jacobs has been excused, Maggie Bird,
Here.
Nanette Metz,
Present.
James Flickinger,
Present.
Adriana Vondergraaf,
Present.
Bruce Hamus has been excused, Bobby Williams,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, so we're looking to approve the minutes. Does anyone have any revisions or corrections or whatnot? And if not, if we have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Please give your, thank you, Maggie.
Yeah. I second it. It's Nanette.
Thank you, Nanette. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Thank
Staff?
you. Thank you. Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Nanette Metz,
Yes.
James Flickinger,
I approve.
Adriana Vondergraaf,
Sorry, abstain.
thank you. Bobby Williams.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously with 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Anna. Next is public comment period for those non-agenda items. Staff, do we have any folks wishing to speak at this time?
We have received no public comments at this time.
Okay. There being no unfinished business, we'll go to new business. Agenda item 6A is to receive and file an update on the follow-up requested by the Oxnard Airport Authority during its September meeting regarding the FAA consultation of Alternative 4 for the Oxnard Airport Runway 7-25 taxiway connectors and parallel taxiway pavement reconstruction project. Staff, may we have your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the last meeting that we had with both the commission and then the following meeting that we had with the authorities, we presented a summary of the first workshop, public workshop that we had in relation to the upcoming Oxnard runway reconstruction project that's scheduled for next summer. Just a real quick recap, we're about 60+% done with final design.
You are
now,
muted.
we're
You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing
take
star
place,
6.
Early next summer. In that first workshop, we explored 5 different alternatives for, or potential alternatives for how we might be able to approach that project. And this, your board did not have any follow-up directions to that. However, when we did the same presentation to the Oxnard and Camarillo authorities, the Oxnard authority asked us to look further into the alternative 4 and to inquire further with the FAA. So we did that. So this is a summary update that we're going to be providing to the Oxnard authority on Thursday night, and we wanted to share that with your board as well. So with that, I'll at this point turn it over to Erin Powers, our project administrator, and she'll pick it up from here.
Yes. Chair White, board members, Erin Powers. Kip summed it up well, and we're going to actually have Mead and Hunt, who coordinated the consultation with the FAA in concert with the airport to report on the FAA's response back to the consultation. And I did want to just point out that the actual correspondence is available for viewing in the agenda packet as part of the correspondence in Section 9. And with that, I'll introduce Chuck McCormick and Jeanette Loera from Mead and Hunt to present the issues.
Thank you, Erin. Can you hear me okay, Erin?
I can. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Chuck. We're handing it off to you.
Okay, yeah. Can we go next slide, please? And then, so like Kip and Erin mentioned, again, my name is Chuck McCormick. I'm the project manager for this this design project for the runway 725 and taxiway connectors and parallel taxiway pavement reconstruction project. And if we can go next slide. So what we did as part of that workshop, like we had shown you before for the first tenant workshop, we developed 5 alternatives for the construction phasing, 5 different ways to do the project. One of them was alternative 4, which proposed to close runway 725 and convert taxiway Foxtrot to a temporary runway 725. So we did an evaluation of that. As part of that evaluation, we even shifted the center line a little bit further to the north, but we still had penetrations of the runway object-free area and also to the runway protection zone. So that's what this first bullet is. We had items that were too close to the hangars and landside features, and then we had issues with the safety zone and compliance. Per the direction of the airport authority, we presented this information to the FAA. They came back in a fairly short time frame, and basically they looked at it as utilizing the parallel taxiway as a temporary runway would significantly increase the likelihood of runway incursions and decrease safety. And then they finally summarized it with the alternative 4, as proposed, was unacceptable based on their review of the information. So we did get a response from the FAA, and this is the FAA Los Angeles Airports District Office. So that's just reporting back on basically what the direction was coming from the airport authority. So we want to provide that information to you tonight. So if you have any questions, I can take those at this time.
Chuck, is that high speed going to stay?
And yeah, with Taxiway Delta, it is part of our next presentation. I'll go over that. It does stay. It's slightly modified, but Taxiway Delta will continue as a high-speed taxiway with some modifications, though. And I'll show you that in just a minute.
So any other questions for Chuck? There being none, I'm entertaining a motion to receive and file.
I'll move that.
Second, do we have a second?
So moved, Adriana.
We have a second by Adriana Vanderbilt. Can we have a roll call vote on this, staff?
Yes. Robert Trimborn?
Point of order, Bobby Williams. Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
Bob.
can you hear me?
Yes, Bobby.
Yes.
I'm doing a roll call vote. I'll get to you in a moment. Robert Trimborn?
Now can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. We usually don't vote on receive and file items. Right, we just receive.
I was corrected by staff a couple meetings ago that they said that the Board of Supervisors votes for many of their receive and file, and so I'll take it up with if Anna would like to weigh in on this. I can go either way. I'd much rather just say receive and file and be done with it. But and your point's well taken. So I'm looking to staff for comment on this.
I can chime in. This is Anna. Yes, we do try to keep.
Anna, are you available?
We do try to keep our practices consistent with the Board of Supervisors, and they do do a receive and file by a motion and a second and a vote, and the Camarillo and Oxnard authorities do the same as well. So we are trying to stay consistent.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go offline and try to call her and see if we can get her back on.
Mr. Chairman, this is Anna. Did you hear my response? Was that okay, or would you like me to repeat it?
Can you guys hear us? Hello?
No, it's Anna. I did speak, but apparently you guys can't hear, so there must be some sort of technical. We'll look into it right now. Okay, thanks. They can't hear us.
Mr. Chairman, so I just spoke with Anna and the team doing the technology part, and they're having some issues with the technology there. So if we could just maybe hold on a minute until they can get that figured out.
Thank you. Yep.
Is someone blocking on communication? Okay, should I try to see if they can hear? Kip and Mr. Chairman, can you hear me now or not yet? Still can't hear.
Can you guys hear us now?
Yes.
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 Okay, back on.
Thank you. This is Anna. To respond to your question, Mr. Chairman, we do try to keep our practices consistent with the Board of Supervisors, and a standard procedure they do on receive and file items. They do a motion, a second, and they do vote. And the Camarillo and Oxnard Airport Authority follow suit. So if it's all the same to you, as the chair of the commission, a roll call vote would be preferred, but as the chair, you make that determination.
Okay, well, since I was admonished once before, we might as well go and make everyone happy and do a roll call vote, please.
Sounds good. Thank you. Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Nanette Metz,
Yes.
James Flickinger,
Yes.
Adriana Vondergraff,
Yes.
Bobby Williams.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously with 1 abstention.
Thank you, staff. Agenda item 6B, and that is to receive and file a summary of the second tenant workshop held on November 17th, 2020 for the Oxnard Airport runway 7-25 takeaway connectors and parallel taxiway pavement reconstruction project. The recommendation of staff is that we receive and file a summary of the second tenant workshop held on November 17th. And we look forward to staff's recap of this tenant workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kip Turner again here, Director, and this is the second of 3. So we will be having a third and final public workshop, probably latter part of January, first part of February, during which time we will wrap up the, well, actually won't wrap up the public comment portion, but it'll be the third and final workshop that's planned. The public comment portion and the public participation goes on all the way through the project. So, but as you mentioned, this is a summary and a recap of the most recent workshop that we had, which was the second. And with that, I'll turn it over to Erin Powers, our project administrator, to then go forward from there.
Thank you, Kip. Yes, so on November 17th, we held our second workshop for the Oxnard Airport project. It was a well-attended presentation. I'm sorry, I'm hearing a little feedback. It was a well-attended presentation, and it also had a robust question and answer section. We're going to be turning this over to Mead and Hunt to recap the workshop and to discuss and summarize how the workshop ended up. Thank you very much. Chuck?
Thank you, Erin, very much. Again, Chuck McCormick again. If I'm having some internet issues, please let me know, and I can maybe turn my camera off. Maybe it's a busy time of the night right now for internet usage. But again, if we could go to next slide, please. And so again, this is a similar slide like we saw last time. But this is going to be highlighting the runway 725 taxiway connectors and parallel taxiway pavement reconstruction project from the tenant workshop number 2 that was held a few weeks ago. So next slide, please. So we kind of already went through the introductions, but as part of the entire team, it consists of the Oxnard Airport, Kip Turner as their Director of Airports, Erin Powers as the Project Manager. On the design side, it's Mead and Hunt. I myself am the Project Manager, Chuck McCormick. And we have Jeanette Larrera, who's with us tonight, as the Civil Design Lead. And as part of these tenant workshops, we engaged Ariano Associates for public outreach. Especially this was key during this COVID-type situation where these meetings were held virtually. Let's go next slide, please. So just as a kind of a summary from the last time we met, the purpose of the project, we're going to go over that tonight, project overview and description, the proposed airfield changes, and then we'll show you the results of the workshop number 1 survey. We'll go over the phasing alternatives as they're getting narrowed down. And then we'll be able to show you the results from the workshop number 2 that was just held a few weeks ago, along with the questions and comments that were received during that workshop. And then, like Kip mentioned, we'll list out the future meetings and contact information, and then we'll be available for questions and answers for you tonight. So next slide, please. And if you can hear me okay, I'll keep going. So as part of the project overview, the project consists of the pavement reconstruction, which is reconstructing the runway down to subgrade and bringing it back up and up to stabilized shoulders. It'll include the installation of a new under drain system for improved storm drain improvements. That's kind of a tongue twister. The project will also have the installation of new runway edge lights and new MALSAF light sets. The MALSAF is the medium intensity approach lighting system with sequence flashers. That's the FAA's own system. And the application of new pavement markings, along with the installation of new airfield signs, guidance, and mandatory hold signs. And this project then will also be funded with a combination of County of Ventura funds along with a grant from the FAA through an Airport Improvement Program grant. So let's go next slide, please. So the project description, the project will be designed with a single bid package, but it will include a base bid and then up to two bid alternates. And then, so the base bid is the primary part of the project, which is the runway 725 construction. So that's the base bid. And then the taxiway connectors, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo, the reconstruction of those is bid alternate 1. And then the parallel taxiway Foxtrot reconstruction will be bid alternate 2. Let's go next slide, please. So some of the proposed airfield changes are with the taxiway configuration. And so first, with the high-speed taxiway, you can see the blue line. The blue is the new pavement as it would exist if the project is fully funded and can be completely done. In other words, the base bid, the runway 725, along with bid alternates 1 and 2. So but these changes are still seeking FAA final approval on the layout of the high-speed taxiway connector. It's got a slight modification to it. And then along with taxiway would be taxiway Charlie. That gets realigned as well as taxiway Bravo. Now another one you can see here is the taxiway names. If we do bid alternate 1, which is the taxiway connectors, the taxiway names will be changing from a single alpha character, Alpha through Echo, to alphanumeric characters. So it'll be Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Alpha 4, and Alpha 5. And then the parallel taxiway would be changed from taxiway Foxtrot to taxiway Alpha. That is the new naming convention as prescribed by the FAA Airport Design Advisory Circular, which is now the standard for FAA design projects. But again, as a reminder, the taxiway proposed changes, airfield changes, would only happen if we get into alternate 1 and alternate 2 are awarded. So let's go next slide, please. So from the workshop number 1 survey, we had 2 questions for the airport, for the tenants that were involved with that. We had 42 respondents, and the question was, what is more important for you? Expedited construction duration. In other words, let's get the project done as fast as we can, so that it necessitates completely closing the runway and the connector taxiways and the parallel taxiway. The second item was, or you prefer limited runway availability. So that was alternate 2, which would be having the runway 725 available, albeit in a shorter length. It would be one phase having approximately 2,100 feet available, and the second phase would be, part of that alternate 2 would be approximately 2,500 feet of runway availability. But that is that project costs more because you've got multiple phasing involved with it, and Jeanette will go along with, highlight that in a little bit, along with a longer construction duration. Let's go next slide. So now I'm going to hand this over to Jeanette if her audio is working okay, and then she's going to go over, again, we had 5 alternates that we investigated as part of the initial design, and from tenant workshop number 1, those have been narrowed down to 2 alternatives. So Jeanette, if you can.
Thank you, Chuck. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
It seems like there's a little delay on my... Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it seems like there's a little delay on my side. But let me know if you guys cannot hear me, and then I can switch to my phone. I have it ready. So yeah, like Chuck mentioned, we analyzed several phasing alternatives, and those were presented at the first workshop. And so for this workshop, the second workshop, we narrowed it down to 2 alternatives. So the first alternative is the full runway closure with no arrivals or departures. So we go to the next slide. So for this alternative, the runway 725 and all the taxiways will be closed. And I'll be referencing to the taxiways by their current name so that there's no confusion. So during this construction phasing, there will be no airfield facilities available, since all the navgates, like the PAPIs, the glide slope, localizer, everything will be turned off. If we go to the next slide, please. So an analysis was done for each of the alternatives, considering the safety, the schedule, the budget, and the product quality. And the table here summarizes the evaluation of the analysis and scoring for the full construction phasing alternative. So scoring is provided on a scale from 0 to 10. A score of 10 indicates an ideal scenario, and a score of 0 indicates an unacceptable scenario and eliminates the alternative from consideration. So in this scenario, there will be increased operations at nearby airports, and then also there will be aircraft operations on runway 725. There will be no runway operations. And the construction will be approximately 3 to 4 months plus 2 weeks of additional night closure for grooving and final markings. This alternative provides the most cost-effective construction operations. And then also, since there will be concurrent operations during that construction, there will be no transfers asphalt pavement joists in the top layer of the asphalt, meaning that the asphalt train will be able to go from one end of the runway to the other end with no having to stop and having joints in between. So we go to the next slide. So alternative 2, and this looks at having a partial runway availability during construction. If we look at the next slide, we can see an exhibit showing how this option will be a 2-phase construction. So basically the runway will be split in half. So here you can see that the construction will be on the west end, and taxiway Delta and Echo will be constructed together with the west portion of taxiway Foxtrot. So this will allow us to have a runway of approximately 2,500 feet. So with this runway, most turboprops should be able to operate, and there will be no touch and goes allowed. If we look on this next slide, so this will be the second phase of the construction. So basically, the east portion of the runway and taxiway Foxtrot and taxiway Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie will be constructed. And we'll have a 400-foot maintenance will be maintained between the construction equipment and the aircraft approach. So this leaves us with the runway length of approximately 2,100 feet. If we look at the next slide, please. So we run the same evaluation criteria as analysis 1, and the impacts to safety in this configuration include that a shortened runway will be available for small aircraft, and the runway will be reconfigured, and there will be aircraft operations over that construction. Also, there will be no navgates or VSATs or runway lights available. So the aircraft will have to operate under BFR conditions. And then if we look at the next slide, as far as the schedule, the construction for this phasing will take approximately 5 to 5.5 months for the main construction, and then we'll have to include about 1 to 2 week runway closures to do any work where the phases meet. Basically, the middle of the runway we'll have to close it for like about 1 to 2 weeks, up to 3 times. And there will be 2 weeks of night closure to do the runway grooving and the pavement marking, similar to alternative 1. Looking at the budget, for alternative 2, there will be reduced construction efficiency, and the durations result in increasing cost of approximately $1.2 million. So this is money that could be going to the construction of the connectors or the parallel taxiway. So in this alternative, we'll add to runway configurations. Therefore, the runway will have to be striped 3 times. First, the existing marking will have to be removed, and then the first temporary runway will have to be striped, followed by a second temporary runway, and then the paint from the temporary runway will have to be removed for the final markings. And then, so pavement markings are removed usually by water blasting, so this could damage the pavement. Every time we're removing pavement markings, we could be damaging the pavement. And so the quality of this alternative will be impacted by having construction operations divided over 2 phases, which decreases efficiency. And there will be 1 planned transverse AC pavement joint at least. So if we go to the next slide, please. So in this slide, you can see the comparison of the 2 analyses side by side. For alternative 1, full closure, and alternative 2, partial closure. And construction is expected to occur in the summer or fall of 2021, subject to FAA funding. And the award of bid alternative 1 and 2 is also subject to FAA funding. So the ideal scenario will be to be able to build at least the runway at the connector, so that later on, if we're not able to award the parallel taxiway, we don't have to impact the runway, and we can leave it open for the construction of the next project. So as mentioned in the previous slide, alternative 2 increases the cost by approximately $1.2 million. That it's about 30% of the cost to construct the taxiway connectors. And then also alternative 2 will require a safety risk management process, because the shortened runway and aircraft operations over the construction activity will have to be approved by FAA, and this might impact the start of construction and funding. So this could take months to get approved. Next slide, please. So when we had the workshop number 2, we had 3 questions that were basically, we had like a survey, and people could either were able to vote. So the first question that we asked was, during construction, will you temporarily relocate to Camarillo Airport if there was an opportunity? And about, 25 people participated in the survey, and 14 people, or 56% of those persons said that yes, they would relocate. 36% said they wouldn't relocate, and 8% said that it didn't apply to them. The second question we asked was, how often do you fly? Either once or more per month, so that was 36%. Once or more per week, 60%. Once or more per quarter, 0%, and didn't apply, 4%. And the last question that we asked was if they prefer the full runway closure or the partial runway closure. And 64% of the people went with the full runway closure. Next slide, please. And so we also had a Q&A session at the end, and we received a total of 32 questions and a combination of comments and questions. So people were given the option to raise their hand and then be able to ask themselves. So we received 3 questions, and 29 questions were received through the chat feature. So the type of questions that we received, 17 were technical questions, 12 were related to tenant relief, and 3 were related to funding. So we go to the next slide. So now I'll turn it back to Chuck, and he will talk about future workshops, and we'll go to a Q&A session.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette. And again, on top with that, you saw the numbers from that last tenant workshop. There were approximately 40 people in attendance, so we didn't have, but you could see the answers or the questions that came in, the responses, and what their feelings were on the project. So this presentation will be summarized again at the Airport Authority meeting. That's scheduled for this Thursday, December 10th. And as Kip mentioned, the next tenant workshop is scheduled for late January, early February. And as always, the project's maintained a project email, so people can ask questions, and that's at the email address shown on the screen. And then in addition, there's also a helpline where people can call in and ask questions, and then we'll reply back to those questions, either that come in via the email or by the helpline. Next slide, please. So this time, if anybody has any questions, we'll be able to take those.
Yeah, I have a question. For those residents who have their planes at Oxnard who would be willing to move to Camarillo temporarily and who are now in a hangar, how would they be accommodated at Camarillo? Are there available hangars, or would they be on the field as tie-downs?
Chuck, I'll be glad to take over here. As far as, yeah, absolutely. So we've been having similar questions like that, Commissioner, all along, and we've not been able to address it because first of all, we had 5 alternatives to choose from, and out of those 5 alternatives, the answers would have been different for every one of them had we chosen a different alternative. So we've gotten a lot of people that think we've been avoiding that question. That's not the case at all, because we needed to get to an alternative first.
No, that makes perfect sense, Skip. But assuming, I'll make it easy for you, assuming that the runway will be closed.
Right. Well, now we're actually somewhere now where we can go to the next step, because as you may or may not have picked up from the summary that was just provided, we have now arrived at a preferred alternative, and that's alternative 1.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the 2 workshops we wanted it to be totally tenant-led. All of that work was for our tenants to have a say in how this project happens, and we went to a lot of expense and a lot of trouble to make that the case.
It showed.
And thank you, and because the team worked hard on that, and I need to thank them because they put a lot of work into this. But now that we've gotten direction from our tenant base, or at least those that wanted to participate and chose to participate, and we have a preferred alternative, we can now go to those next steps of answering questions like what you have. And to just give you a simple answer to what I think your question is we are, now that we're choosing alternative 1, or now that alternative 1 has been chosen, we being the Department of Airports is going to propose up to 4 months for those tenants affected, that we waive the rents at those 4 months. Now that's obviously going to be dependent on Board of Supervisors approving that.
Of course.
But that will be the proposal by the board. By the Department of Airport. And that's the only way I know to really do it, because what our availability might look like today at Camarillo, for example, may or may not be the same availability that we have in 6, 7 months from now when we engage the project. So we felt the only way to really try to have an offering that we know could be consistent to those tenants affected is to offer or try to offer waiving their rents, whether it be tie down or whether it be hanger, whatever rent they currently have then, for those 4 months of construction. And by the way, not all airports do this. I mean, I know. If the board does this would be a very generous offer by the Board of Supervisors to allow us to do this. But because a lot of airports, there's no requirement to do this. It'd just be an offer to do that.
Okay.
But the second thing we would try to do, obviously, I mean, we always are customer oriented and we want to take care of our tenants the best way we can. So we would look for secure tie downs at Camarillo. I can tell you there's no hangars. So there's no reason to assume there's going to be hangars 6 months from now when there's no hangars now. There's over 100 on a wait list for hangars. So that's just not going to happen. And I'm not one to lead somebody on to something that I think can happen if I already see it's impossible to happen. But tie downs, there is a possibility for tie downs. And if we have tie downs available, of course, we're going to be wanting to offer those to our Oxnard tenants. But we also feel that by waiving the rents that they would be paying at the Oxnard Airport, they could then take that money and whatever airport they have to go occupy out of the next 3 or 4 months, if they choose to do so, then obviously they would have that money that they could do to pay that airport, whether it's Camarillo, whether it's Santa Paula, whatever it is that wherever they feel like they need to go for that duration of time.
That sounds fair, Kip. Thank you so much for the straight-out answer. I appreciate it.
Well, again, we wanted to try to get to this already, but we couldn't until we had an alternative.
Certainly. I fully understand.
Because had we chosen, for example, alternative 2, it would have been a different scenario.
Of course. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question of Mr. McCormick. So looks like the taxiway fillets are being choked down. Is there a different design aircraft this time around than the last time? The high-speed turn fillet back to the main taxiway, going back to the terminal, seems like a pretty tight turn. And I'm just curious why that's being choked down the way it is.
It's not that the design aircraft is still design group 3 for taxiways, so it is still the design group 3. But we're designing it based on the current design standards that are there. So we're not reducing it down to a different design group level than what's there now. It's just that's what the FAA design standards are in the width of those taxiways.
I see. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions that we can address?
I have no further questions.
There being no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
Adriana?
We're looking for a second.
Bob Trimborn seconds.
Thank you. Staff, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Robert Trimborn,
Aye.
Maggie Bird,
Yes.
Nanette Metz,
Yes.
James Flickinger,
Yes.
Adriana Vondergraff,
Yes.
Bobby Williams.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously with 1 abstention.
Thank you, Anna. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Chuck and his team at Mead and Hunt for a great presentation, and look forward to the next workshop.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the director's report. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd first like to say we miss her already, but one of our commissioners has since resigned since our last meeting and moved out of state, which is she regretted she had to resign, but Julie Mano. So obviously we'll be looking to have her replacement come on at the beginning of the new year, hopefully, whomever is designated to replace her. So we really appreciate her dedication to the position while she was in it and while she was here, and we'll miss having her. The second item that I had for the director's report tonight was to give you an update on our planned schedule for the hangar lease. As you know, we were back in March of this year presenting to both your body and then to the authorities what we thought at the time was a final draft, and the authority asked us to take another look at 6 of the items. We went back and did that, and then COVID hit, and we've just been really tabling the item primarily because of COVID, at least for the first several months of the pandemic, because we didn't have the technology that we now have. So we envision having this ready to roll back out for final discussion in March, and your body first, for your board first, and then the same month for the authority members, and then ultimately to the Board of Supervisors. Prior to doing so, we're doing just some clarifying edits and things like that to it, to try to make it easier to understand and easier to read. I'm actually doing a lot of those myself. But prior to doing that in March, I will be disseminating it again back out to to everyone, including your board, but also to the Cahota group and the leadership there. And I will be asking, or have already asked, for another meeting with them once I send out that final draft again. And that'll all happen before we come to your body in March. So we envision trying to do that sometime in the January, February time frame, and before we come to you in March. And then the next item I wanted to update on is, as you know, we received a grant for $750,000 a few months back now for the master plan. Well, it hadn't been that long, but we've been working on the idea for a few months, and then we got the grant for a master plan and system plan update. Again, COVID-19 caused us to hit the pause button on that, even though we had got everything lined up for that. But now we're far enough along with technology and so forth that we did kick that effort off on November the 18th. So now we have that group working. Kaufman is the party that's working on that with us and for us. And that'll be about a 12 to 18 month study, which will include a lot of public interaction. And then we have officially kicked it off here in just the last couple, 3 weeks. So we're excited about that. And we want to roll into the new year and looking forward to the public participation that we will have on that will help guide the future of our 2 airports for the next 10 to 15 years. And then it's exciting to say on the Northeast Hangar project for the Camarillo Airport, we are scheduled for completion on December the 18th. So that's something that we've been looking forward to, and trying to be able to say for about 3 or 4 years. And super excited that we're looking at a completion date that we anticipate being a real completion date that we anticipate for, again, December the 18th. We'll have our staff, once it is complete, is already working behind the scenes to try to evaluate the inflow of customers into those hangars. Then sometime in the early part of the new year, hopefully after the pandemic has loosened up and we can have public gatherings again, we'll have an opening ceremony, an official opening ceremony for that hangar complex, because it's obviously a complex I'm excited about and proud. Mr. Chairman, that is the director's report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
you, George.
I'm sorry, that's not the director's report. I forgot about this is actually the best part. We have done, I've been mentioning to your board and to the authorities board over the last few months elements of work that we've been doing at the Oxnard Airport. We have put a lot of money and effort and time into the Oxnard Airport over the last year, and you're seeing pictures that are flowing across the screen now. And actually, if I could get the team to back up to the first one, I'll just sort of touch on each one, and I apologize. I got a good team. They're keeping me straight here. Maybe this is the first one. Okay, so we'll call this the first one. Either way, you'll see where we've we've put down a new seal coat, new striping for all of the pavement, or virtually all of the pavement in the parking lot, the driveway, the tower parking lot, and that really makes a difference. I mean, I can't tell you how many comments we've had from both users and tenants out there that really are excited about the new look, and it just really looks good. And then staff, if you could roll to the next picture. On the inside of the terminal, back in the baggage claim area, obviously getting ready for the Oxnard runway reconstruction project, there's going to be a lot of need for planners and engineers and staff to spread out at various times, working on elements of that project. So we really did a good job. Our team did on the baggage claim area room. We put a table back there to sort of make it a temporary working station for the project teams during the upcoming runway project. The baggage claim doors that were needed a lot of work. We hired a door company to come out and work on those. Or I think our staff assisted with that, but we also hired a company to come out and do some extra work on those. But really just made that area usable. And then inside the terminal, we've torn out all the airline ticket counters that were very dated, and we have repainted the entire inside of the terminal, put new LED lights all the way down through the terminal to make it brighter and lighter, and it's just a really more appetizing and exciting place to be. And until we get airline service back in there, we're planning to start, when the pandemic allows us, we're planning to start hosting all of our public meetings over there, including your meeting and the authorities meeting. So when we're able to start meeting in person again, you'll get to see this in person because we'll be hosting our meetings there. But getting a lot of positive comments from our tenant base, and then we've also done work on the runways over the last year or so where we've restriped and done things to maintain our 139 certificate, and just getting a lot of positive vibes and good energy out at Oxnard Airport. We wanted to share that with you. And staff, I
would not have recognized it.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. Yeah, so I think that's all the pictures, I believe. So, yeah. So anyway, any questions for the Oxnard Airport update? Or any of the director's report, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Director Turner. Moving along, agenda item 8, reports. Do we have any comments from our commissioners on reports or anything that we should focus on? There being none, let's receive and file. Next, agenda item 9, correspondence. Any comments from our commissioners? Okay. I don't believe we have any miscellaneous items. Commissioner comments. I open the floor up to you, commissioners, for comments. Bob, you have to turn your mic on.
Sorry about that. I just want to remind the commission that we have a new set of bylaws that were adopted by the Board of Supervisors on the 17th of November. And it was a long haul, but we worked well together, and we have new bylaws. So,
Congratulations to you, Bob.
well, thank you. And one question for the director: will the bylaws revisions be made? I guess, will you do an announcement to the public that they've been changed at all?
I believe they already have been. I'll defer to Anna on that, but I believe we've probably already put them on our website as well. But let me pause and ask if that's the case.
They will be put on the airport website under the Aviation Commission link.
Okay. Thank you, Anna.
That's all.
Any other comments? I guess that brings us to the end of our meeting. I'd like to wish everyone the very best during this very different kind of holiday season. Be safe and have as much fun as you can during these turbulent times. And look forward to seeing everyone in the new year. And at that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, by hands, all those in favor, raise your hand. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Meeting adjourned at 7:48.